Okay, have and have not fans, this is the video you've been waiting for, my theories on the mid-season finale. Now, we've come a long way so far this, I guess you could say the first part of the season, and sorry I've been out of commission the past couple of weeks, but I've been having a very, very severe cold that I'm just now getting over. Glad it's over, but at the same time, it's allowed me to kind of sit back, marinate on what's been given to me, and come up with a pretty solid prediction about how the video is going to go. Well, excuse me, not the video, but actually the mid-season finale. And honestly, if you look back at past mid-season finales, it's pretty much almost the same formula, where, of course, you had the different storylines broken up into about, 40 to 44 minutes. The preview was about 22 minutes, the one that we got on the OWN network. I believe the commercial was posted on their YouTube channel. And of course, we get the end of the episode preview, but that moves by so fast that it's a blink and you miss kind of thing. The big highlight of the preview is obviously the throwdown that's about to happen at the apartment or motel or whatever you want to call it. Excuse me, the motel that Hannah, Benny, Little Q, and Candace were staying at. And that's when Warlock and his crew, jumps in there, and then we have the gunshot. I'm actually going to do that as a separate video in terms of, who will get shot. We pretty much know the mix now. Either the mid-season finale or end of season finale, season finale, somebody ends up being killed in one way or another. So I want to save that video as its own separate subject, because honestly, this video will be about 20 minutes or so if I actually put it all together. So just kind of breaking down what I believe is going to happen in no particular order. We have Jeffrey looking outside of the window. Obviously he's in the room with Melissa. And it looks like there's a car pulling up. Based off the preview, the only person I can really think that is Benny. And, he comes over, asks Veronica for advice in regards to, will he be counted as guilty because he didn't kill Quincy, but he buried the body. Or I believe in a little snippet of a preview that we saw on the Have and Have Not Facebook page, he's actually referring to, what if a friend or he did this or that, and then Veronica is, seducing him into getting what he wants. But honestly, he's actually going to her for help, which is something that Hannah would definitely not recommend. And I find it ironic because if you remember the last episode, well, actually, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2 episodes ago, Jim told Catherine to make peace with Veronica for now, just to ensure they're on the same side, because, if Veronica runs her mouth or whatever, then she's going to jail. Catherine wouldn't have it. Then you go back to last week's episode where Hannah drives over to the Crier house to ask Catherine for help, in terms of an attorney to get her kids out of, the trouble they're in with Quincy. Veronica says she'll call, I believe it was Marty, but it should be Veronica. But Hannah isn't having it. Pretty much she's pulling a Catherine right now. It's like, what, I'd rather go through hell and high water than deal with that bitch again. That's pretty much what she's saying in no uncertain terms. So Catherine's going to call Marty in the morning in order to get the information that she needs in terms of, hey, I got a friend who needs an attorney. But honestly, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, because based off what we see in the preview, everything is still happening that night. So I don't believe we're going to move into the next day until we get to part 2 of the season we're in. And if I'm not mistaken, this is season 5. Now, the cliffhanger ending, no pun intended, the cliffhanger ending of the last episode was Erica and David getting it on. Apparently they had a very good time at dinner and, getting some dessert right there. So they were doing what they were doing, and then you have the silhouette of Warlock in the doorway, and then Erica's looking. So that's probably one of the most, WTH endings of an episode that I've seen in terms of the haves and the have-nots. And based off what we saw in the preview, just 3 things here. Number 1, just Warlock kind of looking, and, he actually walks away in the preview. And then you got David, and then it looks like Erica's like really concerned, really nervous and scared, because obviously it looks like she saw a ghost, be it Warlock. And then third, we have David, just like kind of calmly putting his shirt on. Here's what I think happened. Warlock's standing there, She's freaking out. And then he eventually just walks away. Erica, pretty much stops what they were doing, and pretty much for the sake of David, probably tells him to go or something. And I believe Candace even told her at one point that, hey, you two start having sex, or, kind of hint that you want to have sex, but then just stop midway through. And I'm pretty sure that's what's happening here. Well, one of two things, that she's quitting because Warlock was there, or part two, she was actually taking Candace's advice. And then David just, well, even though I had fun, I'll respect your wit. You know how he does. And then he leaves. So this could mean one of two things. Well, actually, possibly three. One, Warlock has tabs on Erica in terms of, he has people like, hey, where's this girl that was hanging around with Candace? Because if there's somebody who knew where Candace was, it would be her. Because remember, during last season when Warlock was just appearing like a ghost in Candace's house to, warn her about TikTok, you have X amount of time before you owe me that money, Erica was there at one point. This also could hint about the theory that Erica is actually working with Warlock, working for Warlock, or working against Candace. It could be one of those theories also. It could be, that the fact that Warlock just popped up there, and if it wasn't for David, he would have, strong-armed her for some information, or whatever the case may be. Or this could have been him just popping up saying, hey, I know where you are. You can't hide from me, that kind of thing. And then we have the next scene. Let's see here. Just kind of going back to the Veronica thing. Yeah, Benny shows up, asks for advice in terms of legal options, because if I'm not mistaken, he also called her over to the tow company last season in terms of, hey, I need you to check out this paperwork to make sure it's official. I believe it was like the deed and whatnot to the house, just to make sure that Candace's purchase was legitimate. And she did, and then that turned into sex. I believe the same thing happens here, because Jeffrey's kind of staring at his mom as she comes up the stairway, and she even says something, I think it was, yes, were you eavesdropping? That's what heterosexuals do in terms of, sex between a man and a woman, and not, the gay sex that, Justin and Jeffrey had because of the whole I can smell him on you kind of situation. And honestly, I want to make another separate video about Melissa, but I actually felt sorry for her in the last episode. I can't believe I'm saying that. But, I feel like that's a video in itself. So she's crying in a preview, which again could mean multiple things. Jeffrey does disappear at the, in the middle of the night. And then Veronica pretty much goes in on Melissa in terms, putting her, because she treated her like a dog in the last episode. I mean, you just look at that in terms like a slave and a master thing. Like, hey, I bought you. You don't think, you do what I tell you to do. It could be that. Heck, it could be stomach cramps. I don't know what's going on with that. It could be stress because she's obviously going through a lot. It could be Jeffrey. I don't think Jeffrey would say anything again. Well, again to put her down. But she's obviously going through a lot. So I really can't wait to see this episode unfold in terms of her character and the next half of the season. Because I still hold true to my theory that perhaps they actually go all the way up to those two getting married. Maybe not getting hitched right away, but in terms of them actually being at the church, at the altar, and then something happens. I really want that to happen just to kind of stretch the story. But at the same time, I really want to see a lot of plot points resolved by that point. Because again, another separate video kind of exploring the fact that, even though I love this show, I love it to death, I watch it every week, there are a lot of things that I wish got resolved before new elements were actually introduced. Because again, if you, I guess you could say, what's that thing called? It's like a scale, the scale where you put one weight on each side. If you were to do that, if you put like a marble on each side of the scale, one side was for resolved plot points, another one was for unresolved. Unresolved would win in a heartbeat, because there are a lot of things in terms of like new characters, plot points, character development, mysteries that are introduced, but they go unanswered, or we gotta wait like 3 seasons for them to come to fruition. But again, that's another video for another time. And one of the most frightening parts of it, aside from the gun, was actually the Jim and Catherine scene where Jim's kind of walking through the house and, kind of looking around. I don't know if this is a new section of the house, but it looks like it's pretty empty. It looks like, I don't know how it'll be empty, because again, if this is the same night, there shouldn't be too much going on. Because it looks like, Catherine's standing, above Jim, so I'm assuming that's, the stairs in the living room. Because just kind of looking at the background, it looks like the dang living room is like it been empty out, like if some movers came in and cleared it out. That's my first guess, but I don't know. And it's like she's not playing games anymore. And then in the preview, we saw that Jim is inviting Candace over, but again, that's all to have her, I believe Jim wearing a wire or something like that for the new DA to get dirt on Candace. I don't know if she's coming over. I mean, she could, but given the fact that Catherine isn't playing games anymore, it could be like, you're going to get out of this house or you're going to die. I don't know. Maybe he gets shot. Beats me. I don't know. And if Candace comes over, it'll obviously be after the whole Charles and Candace situation. And again, that's going to be another video because I really want to wait until the mid-season finale so we can get more interaction between the two before I go out into a, what do I think of these two? Not a couple, but just those two in general. Because there is a lot to say. And I will say this much, Candace just needs to stop. It's like every time she's getting out of a life or death situation or something that involves money, where she's like a cat. She lands on her feet. Well, she might not land on her feet every time. She might kind of, land, get a little dirty, ruffled up, but then picks herself up and walks on. And if I'm not mistaken, she climbed out of the window. That's right, yeah. She climbed out of the window. She was laying in bed with her son. And then she climbed out of the window and then went to the hotel. And that's how she met Charles / Oscar's plot. Then you go back to last season. Well, actually a couple seasons ago. It was when Benny had gotten out of the hospital. And that night, that's right, it was Benny, Hannah, and Candace at, Hannah's house before Quincy, destroyed it. She snuck out of the window, got picked up by Warlock and Warlock's crew, then had Jim in the compromised position to get the $7.4 million. So the plot doesn't thicken. It pretty much goes in a circle. I guess you could say, as Oscar said, hey, you know what? These aren't these citywide politicians or gangster or thugs. This is the real deal, the big game, and she's going for a potential presidential candidate. So again, another video for another time. Now, I guess you could say another smaller subplot is Wyatt, in terms of calling the number for help that Jeffrey's been telling him about for a while now. And then you have, I believe it was the kind of Hispanic, representative on the phone asking for his location. And then it might be her along with two other doctors. I don't know. But we do know at least 2 or 3 people come over to his, well, not apartment, but what is like a condo or whatever. And they try to help him out. And Oscar has the address for Jim, and they're pretty much working on their own side, plan to get him to, access the funds so they can get the bank account information and shift the money back to Jim's account. So that's probably going to be, I'd say, maybe towards the middle of the episode. So just kind of looking through all the information in front of me that we've gotten from the preview. I guess the last big thing that I want to discuss here is the whole Mitch popping out of nowhere. It looks like he does get out of jail, because maybe he eventually got that one phone call. It could be, I don't know, what Veronica did for Benny. I don't know, because Hannah was like, what did you do? So Benny did something, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be, and actually Benny gets slapped by Hannah. I don't know. At this, between next episode and the last couple episodes, it looks like, Hannah's going to be beating up Benny like Cookie beats up Hakeem on Empire. Come on now. So honestly, if Mitch does get out of jail, I wonder if that's the same night, or do we actually get an entire day pass by in the next episode? But based on the speed of how things go in this show, I don't think that's the case. I think everything in the next episode is going to be during the same night we are in right now. So with that being said, I think the mid-season finale is going to be pretty interesting. I think, of course, the big ending is going to be Warlock pulling out the gun, it going off, who gets shot. It could be obviously either Mitch, Hannah, Benny, and dare I say Quincy Jr. I hope that's not the situation. I pray it's not. But honestly, if he is still in the room, which I believe he will be, that's definitely going to be a traumatizing situation for him, because, gangsters coming through the door. It looks like they actually break down the door. Yeah, it looks like the guy in front of Warlock is kind of like the big muscle, so he actually rips down the door, not, busts it open, or rips it down, and we go from there. So I'm going to bring this video to a close right now. My predictions are pretty much, my trailer breakdown if you want to go that far. And just look for the other sub videos, like who gets shot, Melissa and Jeffrey. The future episode within I'd say the next few days here about Candace and Charles. And let's see here. Yeah, I have some stuff in the work. Don't worry. But even though we're going on hiatus until I believe either June or July, I'll still have some videos floating around there. So as always, thank you for subscribing and watching. And we got one hell of an episode coming in a couple of days.